The night begins with silence, the kind of silence that hums underneath your thoughts, waiting for you to notice it. A subtle ache lingers behind your temples, maybe from the day's exhaustion, maybe from something older, harder to name. You sit in that quiet, scrolling through memories disguised as faces, people you've loved, people you wish you could forget. And somewhere between bitterness and longing, a strange question curls inside you. Were they ever really with me, or only with the version of me they could use? Arthur Schopenhauer, that brooding German philosopher of the 19th century, once hinted, not with malice but with observation, that a woman's love might not rise from compassion as much as necessity. He didn't say it to wound, but to warn. To him nature was ruthless, and women were its chosen vessels, life-bearing, instinct-driven, tethered to the biological storm of survival. Every gesture of affection, every tear shed, every act of tenderness, he claimed, was not merely emotional, it was strategic. For Schopenhauer, love was not a romance, it was nature wearing perfume. Imagine that. Imagine the thrill of being loved, not for who you are, but for what you represent. The safety of a future, the promise of protection, the image of strength wrapped in the illusion of devotion. In Schopenhauer's world, women did not love men in the way poets described. They needed them, drew from them, thrived on what they could extract, adapt, or manipulate to preserve the species, as nature intended. Pain in that brutal calculus became the currency of connection. A man who suffered for love became proof of his worth, a testament to his emotional availability, his utility, and somewhere in that suffering she thrived, because her sense of importance, of feminine power, was validated by his dependence. It sounds cruel, doesn't it? It sounds almost unforgivable, but Schopenhauer never spoke his truths from spite alone. He saw the world as a reflection of will, the eternal blind force that drives every living thing to replicate, consume, and fight for its own continuation. Men, he said, chase illusions. Women, the architects of those illusions, simply obey nature's harsher logic. A man builds empires for her gaze, writes poems for her approval, endures heartbreak and humiliation just to earn a hint of her affection. And the irony, what Schopenhauer saw was that this suffering is not a deviation from love, but its very engine. So when he spoke of women thriving on men's pain, he was not describing a moral flaw, he was describing a biological ritual disguised by centuries of romance and poetry. He saw through the lace and candlelight into the machinery beneath the heart, and beneath it he found the law of survival. Men bleed to prove their devotion, women bloom in the shadow of that devotion. The cycle repeats endlessly. But look deeper. Look past the cynicism for a moment, because Schopenhauer's words were not meant to rob love of meaning, they were meant to exile illusion, to remind men that the pain they so often feel in love is not an accident, it is the core transaction. When you love, you surrender. When you surrender, you feed something, her sense of power, yes, but also your own capacity to feel, to strive, to evolve. Pain becomes the proof that you cared. And without that pain, love becomes sterile, sentimental, hollow. Now imagine a scene, a couple breaking down in the quiet ruins of their apartment. He is crying, not for her, but for the version of himself he lost trying to keep her. She stands there, half sympathetic, half distant, as though watching a painting melt in slow motion. She doesn't comfort him, not fully. In that moment, she is strangely alive. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. For him this is grief. For her it is awakening. She feels powerful because she can bear it, because she can move forward while he's still drowning. And that, Schopenhauer would say, is the hidden equilibrium of human connection. One thrives where the other falls. The balance of emotional gravity is never equal. Someone always feeds, someone always bleeds, but neither is innocent, because both are obeying the same law, the will to life, that merciless pulse beneath every heartbeat, commanding us to pursue, to survive, to use every resource, even love, to keep existing. You might think this perspective is too dark, too ancient. Surely modern love is more balanced, more conscious. But look around, scroll through the endless pages of heartbreak disguised as self-help, through the soft-lit confessions of those who swear they've healed. The game hasn't changed, it's merely rebranded. Now it's emotional intelligence, attachment styles, trauma bonding. Yet beneath the psychology, you still hear the echo of Schopenhauer's voice. The world is not run by reason but by will, and in love, That will is most visible at the points of greatest suffering. Perhaps that's why pain feels sacred in relationships, why people glorify heartbreak in songs and films, because deep down we know that the moments that hurt the most are the moments we feel the most human. Pain reminds us that we are alive, connected, vulnerable, capable of caring beyond our own survival, and if Schopenhauer is correct, that very sensitivity, the ability to bleed beautifully, is what keeps the cycle turning. So maybe women do thrive on men's pain, but not because they're cruel. Maybe it's because pain produces transformation, because the man who hurts learns to strip away illusion, to see love not as a promise but as a test, and in that painful seeing he becomes more or less naive, more knowing, more grounded. She in turn thrives on that evolution, feeding off the strength he forges in the fire she lit. It's the oldest alchemy in existence. One bleeds, the other grows. But here's the tragedy Schopenhauer never fully answered. What happens when both wake up at the same time? When both see through the illusion and neither plays the game anymore? Does love survive enlightenment, or does it crumble under truth? Can two people look at each other and say, "I know the rules, but I choose you anyway"? That is the real test of modern love, perhaps. Not romantic gestures or promises, but awareness. To love despite understanding the manipulation, despite knowing that nature has its own agenda running beneath every heartbeat. Because in that defiance, when man and woman both see the machinery, yet still reach for each other, there is something beyond biology, something Schopenhauer, for all his brilliance and despair, might have missed. The emergence of consciousness through pain. It's strange how his warning, issued nearly 2 centuries ago, still cuts so close to the bone. We don't want to believe it. We want to think love can exist without suffering, that connection can be pure. But as long as human beings crave meaning, they will also crave the friction that gives meaning form. Pain is not the enemy, it's the sculptor. And maybe women, in thriving on men's pain, are simply living out the truth that life itself thrives on tension, on imbalance, on the push and pull between need and surrender. So when you remember her, the one who walked away, the one who seemed to feed off your chaos, your confusion, your soft undoing, don't curse her for it. See it for what it was, an ancient law being played out again, a ritual as old as time. She awakened something in you through your pain, and in that awakening both of you served a purpose neither fully understood. There is no villain here, only symmetry, disguised as heartbreak. There is a strange peace that comes after despair, one that Schopenhauer might have envied but never truly understood. It's not the peace of resolution or happiness, it's the calm of seeing everything clearly for the first time. The illusions dissolve, the stories you told yourself about love and destiny fade like old paint under the rain, and what's left is simple, just two souls, raw and unmasked, standing in the wreckage of their expectations. The man, the one who suffered, eventually learns that his pain was never meaningless, it was his teacher. He remembers how he once mistook devotion for sacrifice, how he believed that to love someone meant to give until there was nothing left of him. But now something has shifted. He realizes that pain isn't a sentence, it's an initiation. The heartbreak cracked him open, showing him the fragile architecture of his own ego. Beneath the grief, he begins to see how much of his love was built on illusion, the illusion of being needed, the illusion of being irreplaceable, the illusion that love could ever be without condition. And somewhere else, she too feels the echo of that transformation. She remembers the power she once felt when he suffered for her, the strange validation it brought, like watching proof of her importance unfold before her eyes. But over time, even that power begins to hollow, because no matter how much she fed on his attention, it could never fill her own silence. A woman may thrive on a man's pain, Schopenhauer said, but what he overlooked was that such nourishment can only sustain her for so long before she starves for meaning herself. When his suffering ends, when he outgrows it, she's left alone with her reflection. The balance shifts, and suddenly the predator becomes the haunted. That is where the real growth begins, not in the breaking, but in the aftermath. When the drama fades and you meet yourself again in the quiet, the man no longer blames her. He no longer imagines her as his nemesis or savior. He sees her for what she was, a mirror held up by life, a reflection of his own hunger for validation. She too finally looks at him not as a source, but as a fellow traveler through the labyrinth of will and desire. And in that mutual recognition, there is forgiveness, soft, wordless, and deeply human. Schopenhauer's world was one of inevitability. To him the will could never be conquered, only transcended through renunciation, through the cold withdrawal from desire itself. But perhaps he underestimated the resilience of the human heart. For even after being shattered, humanity does not renounce love, it redefines it. Modern love, stripped of illusion, still demands courage. It asks you to step back into the fire, knowing exactly how hot it burns. To care without control, to give without losing yourself, to see another person's needs not as a threat, but as an echo of your own. And maybe that's where Schopenhauer's warning transforms into something else entirely. Not a condemnation of women or men, but a map toward awareness. Pain isn't a punishment, it's a language. It speaks of attachment, of longing, of the raw will to connect. When a woman thrives on your pain, perhaps it's because your pain reveals that you are capable of depth, that you have not numbed yourself to the chaos of feeling. She recognizes life there, raw and unguarded, and that vitality awakens her. It's a terrible beauty, but a beautiful truth, all the same. Think of lovers separated by pride and circumstance, still haunted by each other's absence. They might never speak again, but they carry fragments of one another in their silence. That memory becomes their teacher, their scar, their invisible inheritance. The pain remains, but it softens, stretches, reshapes into understanding. In that long echo of loss, something sacred emerges, awareness without bitterness, memory without blame. And that awareness, unlike the hunger Schopenhauer described, is where consciousness rises above instinct. Love will always pull us between two worlds, the brutal logic of nature and the fragile beauty of spirit. One demands survival, the other seeks meaning. To exist between them is agony, but it is also what makes us human. We ache, we try, we fail, and we love again, each time with a little more truth, a little less illusion. Maybe that's the quiet redemption Schopenhauer never allowed himself to see. That pain, when faced instead of feared, becomes not the evidence of cruelty, but the seed of awakening. So when you remember his warning, women thrive on your pain, turn it gently in your mind. It's not an accusation, it's a mirror. It's nature reminding you that the heart must break to reveal what it holds inside. Without pain, love never becomes real. Without loss, we never learn what it truly means to give. And perhaps when that understanding ripens, both man and woman stop feeding on each other's suffering and start learning from it instead, not as predators, not as victims, but as two beings standing in the long shadow of human longing, learning how to love, not to survive, but to become free. The city hums differently after heartbreak. The noise seeps softer through the glass, and the streetlights no longer glare the way they did before. When you've been broken open, the world itself feels thinner, more transparent. You start to notice small things, the slow exhale of steam from a coffee cup, the pattern of footsteps on the wet pavement, the sound of someone laughing across the street. Pain rewires perception. It sharpens the senses, stripping away the artificial layers of your defenses. That's when you begin to see that love, in its truest form, doesn't live in the grand declarations or cinematic reconciliations. It lives here, in the quiet details that ask for nothing except your presence. Modern love, for all its language of self-awareness and therapy, is still haunted by Schopenhauer's paradox. We still chase validation disguised as connection. We still measure love by the attention it gives us, not the peace it brings. Men still seek to prove their worth through endurance. Women still navigate the thin line between power and vulnerability. Yet beneath all the psychology and progress, the same ancient rhythm beats on: longing, loss, rebirth. The instinct hasn't died, it's only evolved its vocabulary. Imagine the man now, older, calmer, standing by a window at dawn. He no longer carries the same desperation for affection, nor the bitterness of being misunderstood. He simply feels. The ache remains, but it has matured into a kind of clarity. He watches the sky lighten and remembers how love once felt like possession, like a race to win someone's devotion. Now he sees the flaw in that idea. Love was never about ownership, it was about recognition, about seeing another person's being as clearly as you see your own reflection and not needing to change it. She too has changed. The woman who once drew life from his pain now draws strength from her stillness. She no longer needs a man's suffering to feel alive. She has faced her own void, looked directly into it, and found it mirrored the same hunger she once saw in him. The realization is sobering, but it's also liberating. For the first time, she no longer seeks love to fill her. She seeks it to share what she has become. This is the quiet evolution that Schopenhauer's warning may have unintentionally inspired. When we understand the machinery of instinct, when we see how deeply nature programs our desires, we gain the rare chance to step outside of it. Awareness doesn't destroy love, it purifies it. It reveals that the parts of us that once fed on each other's suffering can also feed on truth, on presence, on compassion that expects nothing in return. In that kind of love, no one thrives at the other's expense. Both rise, equal in vulnerability and strength. In modern relationships, this awakening manifests quietly. Two people sitting across from each other in silence, no longer trying to be impressive. A message left unread, not as rejection but as boundary. A breakup, not as failure but as completion. We begin to learn that endings are not punishments, they're graduations. The will to love evolves from acquisition into alignment. The masculine learns not to offer pain but integrity. The feminine learns not to extract power but co-create peace. The energy shifts from survival to synergy. Schopenhauer believed the only escape from the will was renunciation, a life detached from desire. But perhaps there is another path. Maybe the way out is not renunciation, but reconciliation with the self, with the forces inside us that once ruled without awareness. You can love consciously. You can face your instinct without bowing to it. The pain that once defined you becomes a teacher instead of a cage. And as you move through relationships with lovers, friends, even strangers, you start to see patterns repeating less violently, less tragically. It's almost quiet magic, that moment when you realize you no longer need to win or suffer to feel deeply. That loving someone can be as natural as breathing, without the fear of losing yourself. In that state, you love because you are already whole, not because you hope to be completed. Then the ancient script flips. No one thrives on another's pain anymore. They thrive on presence, on the shared miracle of being awake together in this fragile, fleeting existence. That perhaps is the redemption Schopenhauer could not imagine. Love surviving awareness. Modern love no longer hides from the truth of suffering, but transforms it into depth. To love consciously is to live courageously, to say, I see your pain, I see mine, and still I reach out. No illusions, no games, just the fierce tenderness of two people choosing to stand in the light, knowing precisely what it took to get there. When the dawn finally breaks and the city exhales, he steps away from the window. Somewhere else she does the same. They may never meet again, but the connection remains, not in their bodies, not in their words, but in the silent evolution their story made possible. Pain was the beginning, awareness was the turning, and now love, real love, becomes the quiet aftermath. In the stillness that follows awakening, there comes another question, one that hums softly beneath modern hearts. How do you stay free while staying close? It is the puzzle every conscious lover eventually faces: to love without possession, to care without control, to commit without surrendering your soul's autonomy. It's a delicate dance, and most stumble through it, learning the steps not through wisdom, but through loss. Freedom, for a long time, was misunderstood. To Schopenhauer, freedom could only exist in detachment. To desire was to be enslaved by will. He imagined the liberated soul as one that turns away from the cravings of the body and the chaos of the heart. But life, it seems, has a way of demanding more complexity than philosophies allow. People need each other. They need the pull, the warmth, the quiet touch that says, I see you. Freedom, in that sense, is not the absence of attachment, but the transformation of it. When two conscious people meet, they build not chains but wings. Freedom in love does not come naturally. It must be learned painfully, through the undoing of old scripts, through realizing that connection without control feels terrifying precisely because it is authentic. In such love there are no guarantees, only presence. You can't predict tomorrow, and that vulnerability cuts deeper than any attachment ever did. But it also feels alive in a way that control never could. It invites courage, not comfort, and courage is the truest language of intimacy. Modern relationships often disguise fear as independence. The avoidance of depth becomes self-protection. Yet true freedom is not the freedom to walk away. It is the freedom to stay without losing yourself. to live side by side without erasing the mystery of otherness. In that balance, love stops being a strategy for survival and becomes a form of art, the art of being human together, unafraid of separateness. There will always be the risk of pain. Consciousness does not erase it, it only transforms its meaning. Pain becomes less of an enemy and more of a teacher, testing the depth of your authenticity. The man and woman both know this now. When they meet others, they carry that quiet wisdom like a hidden light. They no longer chase intensity, they cultivate peace. They no longer perform love, they live it. Day after day, in the smallest gestures, a quiet morning shared, an unspoken forgiveness, a hand resting softly on another without demand. And in these subtle, grounded moments, love and freedom no longer seem opposed. They become reflections of the same truth, that to love freely is to witness another's becoming, even if it leads beyond you. There is grace in that. There is transcendence in letting go, not as retreat, but as respect for the mystery of another soul's path. Schopenhauer feared that love's cruelty was inescapable, that we were fated to suffer through the will's relentless grasp. But perhaps he only caught half the story. In the other half, in the tender evolving consciousness of humanity, love becomes not bondage but awakening. The will is not destroyed, it is illuminated. We still crave, still ache, still long, but now with eyes open, no longer trapped in blindness. The pain remains, but it hums differently now, softer, wiser, almost beautiful. In this new landscape, love doesn't demand, it invites. It doesn't trap, it teaches, it doesn't consume. It completes a circle of awareness that Schopenhauer first traced in shadow and that we now walk in light. The man stands at the threshold of his next story, the woman somewhere in her own unfolding. They may never meet again, yet everything they learn through pain breathes inside them still. Each lover they meet, each hand they hold, carries traces of that awakening. The truth, whispered across centuries of human longing, has finally found its voice. Love is not the opposite of freedom. Love is freedom practiced with devotion. The world has changed in countless ways, yet in the corners that matter most, the silent ones inside the human heart, little has shifted. Technology hums around us like an endless pulse, keeping everyone connected but rarely seen. We live closer than ever, yet the distance between souls grows wider. In this strange age of screens and distractions, love tries to survive the noise. It struggles to speak in a language drowned out by performance. Every post, every story, every filtered confession seems to say, "Look at me, see that I matter." But meaning cannot bloom in performance. It requires stillness, courage, and the willingness to look inward when the rest of the world looks away. That is where Schopenhauer's warning takes on new light. His vision of human nature was raw and unforgiving, yet modern life has only amplified what he feared. Desire multiplied, hope mechanized, connection turned into transaction. The will to life he described, relentless and consuming, now drives not just individuals, but the entire machinery of culture. Brands sell love as a lifestyle. Algorithms feed on loneliness. Society thrives on emotional hunger the way predators feed on prey. And in the middle of that endless consumption, pain remains the only authentic currency left. But amid all this noise, a new awareness quietly stirs, a quiet rebellion. Some are beginning to see that freedom and intimacy, once thought opposing, must coexist if humanity is to evolve. That conscious love is not merely an idea between two people, it is a reflection of an emerging collective truth, a renewal of emotional integrity. The same way the man and woman once faced their personal illusions, now the world itself must face its own, the illusion that connection can be bought, that affection can be mimicked, that validation can replace belonging. In that sense, each broken heart becomes a seed of awakening, not just privately, but socially. When enough people have suffered the emptiness of shallow intimacy, they begin to crave something real. The collective pain becomes a teacher, a force urging society toward depth once again. We begin to recognize that vulnerability, once dismissed as weakness, is the only honest bridge between souls, and so people start to tell the truth again. They write unpolished messages instead of curated captions. They listen without multitasking. They forgive. They let silence fill the spaces where noise used to live. The culture is shifting in small movements, barely perceptible, yet undeniable. You can feel it in the way young people speak of boundaries and energy, of attachment styles not as excuses but as maps to responsibility. They are trying in their own way to turn inward amid the chaos, to make peace with their own contradictions. Conscious love, once an ideal of mystics and philosophers, is beginning to infiltrate the mainstream, not as a product, but as a quiet hunger for authenticity. And yet the struggle remains. Awareness alone does not heal the ancient patterns that Schopenhauer described. The will still stirs beneath the surface, pushing people toward desire, toward possession. The difference is that now, more people recognize it when it happens. The collective eye turns not outward in blame, but inward in understanding. A man rejected no longer seeks revenge in pride. A woman disappointed no longer fashions bitterness into armor. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, we are learning to suffer consciously, to hold our pain without feeding on it. Maybe this is what Schopenhauer's philosophy was always leading toward but never reached, the evolution of will into wisdom. Humanity will never be free from longing, but we can learn to love without being devoured by it. Society, with all its complexities, can begin to rebuild its idea of intimacy around authenticity rather than appearance. Schools begin teaching empathy as a skill. Workplaces value emotional intelligence as strength. Art and music return to meaning instead of spectacle. These changes, slow as they seem, ripple through generations, reshaping the landscape of love itself. You can imagine a future city bathed in dusk light, where people move slower, where eye contact lasts longer, where the noise has softened. In this imagined world, love is no longer something people chase, it's something they practice. Not a search for completion, but an act of participation in each other's becoming. Freedom and intimacy coexist, held in delicate balance by awareness. People still fall in love, still break apart, still ache, but now the suffering is different. It's cleaner, more conscious, not wasted on illusion but refined by truth. In that world, our possible world, the words "women thrive on your pain" no longer sound like an accusation. They sound like an ancient echo, finally understood for what it always was, a mirror. Pain was never the end, but the beginning. Through it, awareness was born. Through awareness, freedom. And through freedom, the kind of love that neither devours nor demands, but simply exists. A living, breathing grace between two beings awake to their own depths. Maybe that was Schopenhauer's warning all along. Not to fear the pain, but to face it. To recognize the nature of human love, not as tragedy, but as evolution. To accept that every heartbreak, every disillusionment, every shattered illusion is a step toward a more conscious way of being. The world, in its own slow awakening, is walking that path now, through heartbreak, through noise, through the long night toward a dawn that won't come quickly, but will come with certainty. When that dawn arrives, love will no longer hide behind instinct or fear. It will stand quietly, transparent and fearless, the mirror through which humanity finally sees itself whole.